inside where it's cool. Excuse my voice, I lost it yelling at Pepco all week. But it paid off as the power came on in this building about 24 hours ago, and we're glad for that. On behalf of Bradley Presbyterian Church and our sister congregations here, we are so glad to be hosting this event again this year, and that all of you are here today. Thanks to everyone who organized this, for the food, and I've been asked to announce that the bathrooms are down at the elbow, down the hall on the left. We are glad to be here to see the 2012 interns and to see Paul, and we enjoyed hosting last year and appreciated the work that this program does and the meaningful collaboration that it brings. The type of collaboration between faiths is something that's very important to our congregation. Since 1967, Bradley Hills and Bethesda Jewish congregation have been sharing space here, as well as coordinating and collaborating in a number of important ways. And we've been so pleased in the last couple of years as well. We've collaborated with all three faiths here, the Valerie, Jeffrey, and Mosque as well. And so the kind of work that you all stand for and the kind of collaboration that you all represent by being here is truly the heart of our congregation and congregations.
Thank you, David, and I also want to welcome you today. Thank you all for coming. I wish there were even more of you here so this room was bursting at the seams. Perhaps some stragglers will come. Because this is possibly the most important dialogue you'll see for quite some time in your life. I was speaking actually with Mary before we began, and what this is all about is changing the story. It's about changing a paradigm. Paradigm shift only happens when people understand that their lives have changed and that what has worked here before doesn't work any longer. That conversation literally starts here. Whether its effect will just be a passing breeze or be a very powerful wind will depend on what happens from this point forward. But it's impossible to understand each other until you begin to speak. And as Mary and I were saying, it's impossible even to do this in Israel and Palestine. You have to sort of get to a place where nobody goes home after the discussion through a checkpoint. Nobody has to go then pick up a rifle or report to duty. Then people here get to actually be in a, not quite a neutral spot, but let's call it an idle spot, where we can engage in different ways. We can begin a new dialogue, and again, begin to reframe the narrative once we can really hear each other's stories. And that's what you're here today, is to hear stories.
I'm not an expert like that.
Thank you all for being here. I begin in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Peace, salam, shalom. It is heartwarming and an honor today to be part of the Presbyterian initiative to build bridges and foster understanding. As you continue on your journey to better understand each other, I bring to your attention a saying of Prophet Muhammad's grandson, Imam Hassan al-Mustafa. He said, "Surely, today you are the youth of the nation, and tomorrow you will be the leaders of the community. Thus, it is incumbent upon you to seek knowledge." The importance of knowledge is not limited to the knowledge of each other's faiths. Rather, the stories you share are an integral part of your future leadership success. To best understand someone, people say try to walk 1 mile in that person's shoes. Your stories are helping us walk that mile. We live through your accounts, the life experiences that shape the thoughts and decisions of others like you. They say blood is thicker than water. Why? One big reason is because when you hold someone near and dear, when you know their background and have heard their stories, you understand them better than a stranger. We hope the more stories we hear and share, the more our relationships will become dear. So dear that we should think deeply when faced with difficult decisions. Decisions between tolerance and aggression, mercy and punishment. What good are stories if they do not propel us to be the change we wish to see in the world, to live justly and spread kindness freely? There is a famous letter written by the fourth Caliph of Islam to his companion, the governor of Egypt. I encourage you to Google it. It is Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib
It must be adhered to by all organizations, and it is a statement that all humanity must embrace. I will read to you just one excerpt from the letter. It's very brief as I close. It says, "Remember, Mother, that among your subjects there are two kinds of people. Those who have the same religion as you have, they are brothers to you. And those who have religions other than that of yours, they are human beings like you. Men of either category suffer from the same weaknesses and disabilities that human beings are inclined to. They commit sins, indulge in vices either intentionally or foolishly, and unintentionally, without realizing the enormity of their deeds. Let your mercy and compassion come to their rescue, and help in the same way and to the same extent that you expect Allah, God, to show mercy and forgiveness to you." I sincerely and humbly wish you all success in your work to do good for your fellow people. I look forward to learning with an open mind from you, as I hope you will learn the same way from each other. May God give us all compassion and understanding, and make our communities better each day. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Sani. Thank you, Reverend David. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for your kind words. Let me, on behalf of the New Story Leadership Program, welcome you all here at our second shared event at Red Hills Faith Communities. It's wonderful to see many people here. Thank you all for coming. My name is Bishar Nassar. I am a proud alumnus of the New Story Leadership Program in 2011. And I have come back this year to be part of the managing team to do the role of faith outreach manager. I'm a Christian from Palestine, where I graduated from Bethesda University. And next fall, I'm going to start my master's in conflict transformation at Eastern Mennonite University. NSL is part of the reason why I'm doing that. It's hard to imagine that 12 months ago, I was sitting over there, listening to the stories of my teammates and participating in questions and discussions. And I still remember how excited we felt the day after, because we knew that our stories were heard. In Palestine and Israel, and even here in Washington, D.C., our young people have no opportunity to speak up. That's why we are here again today. To hear stories you want to hear stories you won't hear anywhere else, told by a young generation that's sick and tired of the conflict. This is what makes NSL special and different. It's not about politics. It's not about kumbaya diplomacy. It's about stories. Let me briefly explain how it's going to work this afternoon. Last year, 4 people had a chance to share their stories. But this year, we felt that all the 10 stories should be heard. At the end, there will be questions and answers for 15 minutes. And after the program ends, there will be time to mix and mingle and have some snacks. And now, let me introduce our first speaker, Leon.
Hello everybody, my name is Leon Frankenstein. I'm from Israel. My parents came to Israel in the beginning of the 80s in South America from Argentina and Uruguay. And my grandparents came to South America when they escaped from the Nazis in Poland and something for the future. So the present in Israel, for me, it means that, well, I've been in Israel, I served the military as any other Israeli. I did my military for 5 years. I decided to do more for my country, and I became an officer. And I served most of my service in the Gaza Strip. That time in the Gaza Strip was the first time that I could encounter the other side. But this encounter was very biased because I was wearing military uniform. On the other side, he was a citizen or a worker, a Palestinian, that perceived me in a different way. But I must say that also myself, wearing uniform, when I saw the other side, I was afraid. It doesn't matter if it was a child, if it was an adult, if it was an old man, I was always afraid from the other side. After graduating, after finishing my military service, I started studying in university, where I'm studying currently political science and conflict resolution. And well, the first year of my studies, we studied very different approaches to conflict resolution. We studied about the South African conflict, about the Irish conflict in Sri Lanka. And when we started to speak about the Israeli-Palestinian or the Israeli-Arab conflict at large, it struck me that we are studying these very important and very relevant issues, but all this dialogue and analysis and exploring that we're doing in class is being held in a class which is 100% Israeli students and Israeli professors as well. So what is the real value? It made me question what is the real value of these discussions. So this is one of the things that led me also to NSL. But before coming to NSL, I wasn't the only one who questioned this issue. And so myself and a few friends of mine started to do some research about it. And myself, as an Israeli, I cannot go to Palestinian territories. I can't visit Gaza, the West Bank, so I can't really have this interaction with the other side and question and ask students from the other side, what do you think? Do you feel the same? So luckily in Israel we have Jewish people coming to study in Israel from the United States, from Europe. So some of my friends from Finland and from Colombia, they said, okay, Leo, we will go and we will visit the university in Ramallah and we will ask them. And they did, they went. And when they met them, they presented one very simple question. Who do you think is more radical? They asked the students, yourself or your parents? And I want to know, maybe someone of you can tell me what you think is the answer. Someone can raise his hand.
I would think the parents.
Yes. The who?
Parents. The students.
Well, you are right. Exactly. So we went there expecting to hear that the parents are radical. Because the parents, when they went through the wars, they went through a very long process of oppression from the Israeli side, and they had much stronger experiences. But the answer that we got, as you said, was that the students witness about themselves that they are much more extreme, because the only interaction that the students have with Israelis are on the checkpoint. And the only Israeli that they see is an Israeli with a gun and with military uniform. Unlike their parents, who used to communicate and meet with Israelis on a daily basis, because before the Second Intifada, the wave of terrorist attacks in Israel and the Israeli retaliation that followed, so Israelis and Palestinians were interacting on a daily basis. Palestinians would come to Israel to work, and Israelis would come to Ramallah, to Gaza, to eat, to fix their cars. I mean, there was an interaction. And the conflict was there, but still there was an interaction. So after this meeting, this encounter in Ramallah, we decided to do something. And we decided that we need to change this, at least at our level, at the level of students, at the level of the education system, which is a very difficult task. But we are trying to do it at our small area in our university, with Palestinian University, and to create a program, an academic program that the students will benefit academically exactly what led me to NSL. One of the people that I met during this project was an alumni of last year NSL. His name is Tomer, and he presented the idea of NSL. And actually, while in the last 7 months I've been working to create a program to bring Israelis and Palestinians, myself, I never had the experience of really meeting a Palestinian. So this is for me the first time that I can come and really interact. I'm living at Homes Van house with Walid here. We're living together, we're sharing meals. And it's far beyond having a political discussion. It's really getting to know the other side. And just if I pause as I finish, but just I wanted to finish with something that I read yesterday in the New York Times. A chef from Hebron, his name is Jabari, he said over there that we cannot make peace, but we can make it easier for the policymakers to take the right decision. So I think this is what we are here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lior. Our next speaker is Dia.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to speak before you today. My name is Dia. I'm a Palestinian from the city of Tulkarm. I grew up and started to have my childhood during the Second Intifada, but that unfortunately was not a childhood. It was filled with anger, frustration, scaredness, being afraid of the other side, being afraid of being killed every single day in your life. My highlight of the Intifada is that in 2003, me and my brother were sitting at home watching TV. He was 8 years old then, and I was 9. In the night, there was an Israeli Air Force airplane called the Apache. And there was a nearby building a couple of blocks away from my house. And for a reason or another, they started bombing the building. I was sitting there, helpless, motionless, watching my brother crying himself in the corner and not being able to do anything about it. At that moment, I wished I could turn his tears into laughter, but I couldn't. And then I told myself, my other little brothers are not going through the same experience as me and my brother have. I said to myself, I'm going to change this someday, even though I was only 9 years old. My breakthrough was in 2009. I came here to the States for the first time in a program called Hands of Peace, based in Chicago. The program gave me the opportunity to encounter Israeli teenagers my age for the first time in my life. After meeting them and getting to know them, I figured out that I was being fed with propaganda, lies, and untruths for the last 15 years of my life. I saw them, I no longer see them as the enemy. I started seeing them as the human. After 3 years from Hands of Peace, I look at the past. And what, did I accomplish anything? Unfortunately, the answer is no. The situation has not changed where we come from. But at least we know that we will do something in the future. And just because me and Leo can work together on the Hill, that means we can work together where we come from home. We would like to thank you for your support for us and listening to our stories. And It is you, people, who give up hope for a better future for ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leah. Our next speaker is Noah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to stand here. My name is Noah Shapira. I'm 21 years old and I'm originally from Haifa, but I've been living in the last 4 years in Tel Aviv. Haifa is a symbol for coexistence, but let me tell you the truth. As a Jewish citizen of Haifa, I've never went to the airport of the city. Why would they go there? That's the slums. Why would I find myself walking around in the Arab part of the city? But I'm not here to talk about Haifa. I want to explain a little more about the term called existential fear that is often used to describe the Israeli narrative. I'm the granddaughter of 3 Holocaust survivors. Both my parents are only children. My dad was born in '49. A year after Israel was established, only 4 years after his father, my grandfather, ran for the Nazi wars in Europe. He was raised to be a Zionist. He was an officer in the army, and he can tell you all about the wars. The war in 56, the war in 69, where he lost his cousin, the war in 73, the war in 82, you get the picture. Growing up, I spent most of my Saturdays, my free time, going to monuments for those who fought in the various wars of Israel. I was taught that our most important tool of survival is the army. I have to go, I have to serve my country. We don't have a choice. That was the sentence, that sentence I've always heard. 2006, I was 16 when the Second Lebanon War started. Haifa is in the north, so I spent my summer, 10th grade, I was in 10th grade then. My summer was spent in a bomb shelter. 2 months, almost 2 months, we sat there, and my dad was absolutely terrified. He was terrified, and that summer to him was just a proof that we don't have a choice, that we'll never have a choice. We'll always live in our stores. That is our life. That is how it will be. Every summer since, he's waiting. Just before the summer, we have the same conversation every year, around May or June, and he tells me, next summer, I know what will happen. We're going to have a war. We're going to have a war with Lebanon, with the Palestinians, Iran. Every year he chooses another country. But my dad is truly scared. That is his life. His parents came to Israel as survivors, and his life from now on is just a war battle of survival. But I want to tell you a different story. I want to tell you my story because I chose different. I choose not to be scared. I chose not to be scared, and I choose differently. Yes, I went to the army. I served for 3 years. But straight after I finished the army, I went to a long, intense dialogue seminar, and I've met the other side. And I choose to live my life differently. I choose not to be scared. I now choose that my kids will not go to the army. I don't want my kids to be scared of the Lebanese or Syria or Jordan or Egypt or the Palestinian. This war has been going on for way, way too long. My kids will not go to the army. That is my resolution. And I'm here with these 9 strong leaders, 9 leaders that can act and doing all they can. So our future will be different. So later on we'll have some free time. I encourage you all to go speak to them because they are the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Our next speaker is Mia.
Hello everyone. My name is Mary Sayed. I'm a Palestinian Christian from Ramallah. From this introductory line, I don't know how many complications could you figure out that I'm facing, but I can name 3. Being a female in a male-dominant society, being a Christian in a Muslim ruled community, and being a Palestinian living an everyday struggle to prove my identity. I was raised in the suburbs of Ramallah, in a small town called Birzeit. My town has been tied very closely to the educational revolution in Palestine since 1924, as it hosts one of the oldest and most notable higher educational institutes in Palestine, Birzeit University. Therefore, getting good education and pursuing higher education was a major issue to me at a very young age. My family made everything possible to me to pursue my education. Being educated is the only weapon you can hold and stand with in the face of the world, my dad always tells me. Not to kill anyone, just to stand for myself. Despite the fact that I am living in a socially, politically, and economically complicated and unstable area, my parents overcame their protective and sometimes overprotective emotions and allowed me a chance to grow. From a very young age, Mom and Dad have encouraged me to involve myself in different organizations and institutes and programs that would help me become a more active young woman in Palestine. This has played a substantial role of me becoming an independent, confident, and active young woman in my community. The challenges that I mentioned in the beginning have made me become more determined on big achievements in life. I am a big believer in the saying, I lost it. I'm a big believer in the saying, if opportunity does not knock on the door, if opportunity does not knock, build a door. It's all about pursuing the hidden opportunity and also helping others to find it as they may not have the tools to do so. Every person is born with an ability to make a change and make a difference. It's a matter of choice whether you want to act upon it or you want to remain silent. And I'm telling you, we're here because we don't want to remain silent. And I've made my choice. I have always been outspoken and involved and will never stop being so. As a Palestinian female who has been granted the opportunity to stand here before you and to speak to you, it's my responsibility to deliver the voice of Palestinian young women who have played a major role in the beginning of our conflict. But for some reason, this role hasn't been growing or extended to different aspects of our lives. It has been suffocated by the masculine ignorance, arrogancy, and under the flag of outdated traditions. Part of my future career path will be to help more females get education, pursue their dreams, and pursue their interests to become more active in the day-to-day issues of Palestine. Palestinian women have so many potentials that only need some doors and windows of opportunities and hopes to be built around them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Our next speaker is Orr.
Good afternoon, everybody. Before I introduce myself and I tell the story, I'll just say that I'm a female, I'm an Israeli, I'm Jewish, I'm a former IDF officer who served in Gaza Strip and some other places. and I'm still, by the way, still in reserve sometimes. I'm a student in Tel Aviv University. So from all these labels that I just described myself as, what you already think about me. And in Israel, in Hebrew, your parents giving you a name. Most of the time, the name got some meaning. And that meaning is about somebody that they knew and they wish that you would be like him or her. Something regarding the dictionary. So even then, you have some kind of a target, some kind of destination, some kind of a journey that they expect you to go through in your life. My name is Or B'Ivrit in Hebrew. It's similar to Nur in Arabic, and the meaning in English is light. When I was a child, I didn't know what it means, and everybody's like, "Oh, such a beautiful name. Your son is the same as you." But and growing up, and people said so many things about their name and definitions, and you're like, "Okay, so what does it mean?" I have a lot of stories to tell you, and I have also none. One of the stories beginning in 1955, when my father was born in Israel after his parents came from Morocco. When they came to Israel, it's one of the untold stories in Israel. They didn't have nothing. They were a big, successful family back then, very rich, very known in their community, very Jewish, very religious. And when they came here, they got to a place where no electricity, no water, just some tents, and you know what? We'll figure it out, because you're Jewish, you came to the Jewish nation, the Jewish country, and that's now up to you. When I grew up in my house, we were very exposed to different culture, and in a way, the Moroccan culture is very similar to the Palestinian culture as well. We share a lot of the food, the music, the clothing, the smells, the memories, the places, in some ways. So for me, when coming here to NSL, I felt a little bit similar in so many ways, but still very far in other ways. They were like the piece of the puzzle that I was missing through my life. In the IDF, I served in the Gaza Strip after the lynching. Gilad Shalit was kidnapped, and I had, as a medic, had the right, or I don't even know how to call it, but I had to treat some injured people. And I got to know even the beauty in the IDF, because there is some beauty. Oh, and I forgot to mention I was Zionist, so yeah, now figure it out. So the beauty in the IDF, and how positive way, and how can we make a difference, and how we can even contribute in that some kind of a struggle, and to treat people as people, and to see the human side of people. And then when I continued in the IDF and I was training medic, I always had the differences between, like the struggle between me, how to teach them, how to let them understand the ethical aspect of their position, how to be humans, how to be soldiers. And it's a very, very complicated place to be. I'm currently now in the NSL, is working with Walid. We're having kind of a joint internship, which is for Americans for Peace Now and the American Task Force on Palestine. And I must say, and I'm living, of course, with Dia in the Schwartz house, which I'm thankful for everything they've already done. And this experience with these two and all the rest, of course, is something that now is awakening a lot of emotions, a lot of things that I didn't know I've experienced, that I had as a child. And in a way, I believe that all of us all of us have the opportunity to make some kind of a change. If it is a small change, because we can't change the world even if we try. But in these kind of interactions, in these kind of initiatives, like you all said, and so many other initiatives that we have here already, and here, we can make a difference. And you guys are the reason that we can keep on doing it, because you're believing in us, and you're giving us the voice and the stage to be heard. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Our next speaker is Magic.
time. It's not because I'm from Gaza, but because he was in the prison. My father was about 1 year in the prison just because he had the right to defend his country after the occupation of the Zionist Jew people when they came in 1948 to Palestine. So he was not with me until 3 years old, and then he was again not with me until mostly when I was 4 years old. So I was telling my grandfather and my grandmother, who were refugees from the occupied territory, and they came to Jabal refugee camp where I live right now in Gaza Strip, and I lived with them and I was telling them father and mother, just because they always telling me that your father is in prison, so I did not know. There's a funny story about my father, just to make fun about something about Gaza. My father was a very strong man. He was one of the leaders of the PFLP movement, which is the Bethesda in Palestine. He was also the leader of North of Gaza Strip and Jabal refugee camp. So my father, he was every time going from the prison for about 3-4 months, and then he come back to the prison for about 1 year. So every time he go out from the prison, he go for 3 months, he meet my mother, he had a child. It was very good actor. So, by the way, he did not make it on time. He made it with me. He just stayed about 2 months, and then after 9 months, I was born. And after 3 months of my born, he was in the prison. He came back. He saw me, and I remember I always told him like that most difficult moment that when I'm in the prison and I know your mother is just having a birth, and it's my first son, and I could not see him. It's like pain. Nobody could, like, even when he said it, you could feel it in his eyes, how that, like, affected him. And as I said before, he made it with me and my sister, which is after me, and my other sister, and with my third sister, with my third son of him, which is my second sister, my mother, she guessed that he would be in the prison again for a long time because the Israeli army and court was like condemning him that he would be in the prison for again long time. In the prison. By the way, my father, he was judged in the prison for about all his life and 9 lifetimes and about 10 years. So it's about more than 1,200 years, okay? And that is a lot of people in Gaza Strip. So I've been born in the refugee camp. I'm very active. I think if I say my story, it will not finish, but anyway, I lived the first intifada. When I was a child, I was throwing a stone. I learned very well how to throw a stone to the Israelis because they were very close to my home. My home was a refugee camp's home. So, and my mother, she was a nurse, and she was living directly close to the Israeli police station, who was like they were controlling of Gaza Strip at that time, before the Palestinian Authority became. So I always, my mother, she was always telling me, Michael, don't go with the children to throw stones to the Israeli. I don't want you to be killed. I don't want you to something happened to you. And I always do it. Just we go from the kindergarten, we throw, it's like just our habits to do that. And it's an education that we learn. We learn that everybody have to do it because it's a resistance and it's your rights. And if you have a rights, you have to fight for it. And that's how we prove ourselves. And then I did the second intifada, and it was the same. We grew up with the second intifada, and I was a bit so angry. My father, he started with the political and like mostly the political and the armed resistance. So, and he did not want me to go to any political party. He did not want me to go to any resistance. So I was going to mostly the social sector, and like the peaceful activities. And that time I was involved in so many voluntary projects with lots of NGOs. And I started when I was in a very young age, because I am a very talkative guy, by the way. So everybody, I always say to Palestinians, like any foreigners who come to my country, just ask about my name, somebody will tell you. It's not because also my name, I'm very active, but also my family, they are like in the resistance, all of them, so they are all famous. That's why my father is a leader, so that's why. So anyway, I managed doing all these activities, and I was really, I left to the war. It's a cold war, but I call it massacre. Sorry for that. But in Gaza, I call it the Gaza massacre 2008-2009. It's not because it's a massacre, because I was working in the ambulance. The first 3 days I was working in the ambulance, and I was just with my friend, like going and take some injuries, and a big bomb just was coming to the ambulance. You know, I was injured close to my heart. So it's like, I did not feel it was a war, because it not was that equal, like, army. I'm like the resistant, Palestinian resistance that are fighting the third biggest umbrella for army in the world. So it was different. But in the end, after the massacre, I decided that I want to do something. I did not know what to do. I did it in Facebook, Bridges, called the Bridges Peace between Gaza and Israel. Because I did not know any guys like this, so I wanted to understand them. So I made these bridges and I started to invite people to it. And I wanted to understand. By the way, one of my closest friends was like an Israeli who was calling me every day to check on me if I'm alive or not. So anyway, so I'm very happy to be in NSL now. I'm very happy to meet all these people. Very happy to arrive here after the 3 weeks of waiting to come here. It was a very
Thank you, Majid. Our next speaker is Sam.
Hello everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here today, especially with the lights on. Alright, so my name is Nitzan, and I'm an Israeli. As my father was an air navigator in the Israeli Air Force, I was born and raised in Israeli military bases. I guess you can say that I was drafted to the Israeli army the day I was born. Living and growing up in army bases, I think it had a very contradictory element to it. On the one hand, as the bases were always surrounded by fences and guards, I grew up in a very safe and secure environment. We never had to lock the doors to our small houses, and I was allowed to go to the swimming pool, to the shop, to the post office by myself from the age of 5 or 6. Apart from that, because we all had the shared experience of living in an army base, in a military base, then we created a very tight community around this military identity. On the other hand, growing up in army and military bases was also an experience speckled with a lot of fear. As fathers of friends around me died and were injured, I lived with a terrifying feeling that a war might break out and that something horrible might happen to my own father. I think that the same contradictory element can also be generalized to the entire Israeli Jewish society. On the one hand, as by law, everyone who reaches the age of 18, both boys and girls, have to serve in the military for 2 or 3 years. There are always many soldiers on the street, which creates some sort of a secure feeling. You feel very safe. And also, because everyone goes to the military, then we created a very tight community around this shared military or militaristic identity. On the other hand, the experience of living in Israel has a constant element of existential fear, which I think that Noah has explained very well. A fear that our sisters and brothers, that our sons and daughters will get hurt during their military service. A fear that a war might break out at any given moment. A fear that Israel might cease to exist. Therefore, when I look at the Israeli society, I see quite a militaristic society, but also a society which is imprisoned and trapped by fear. And as whole generations grow with this sensation, this overwhelming sensation of fear, I feel that the people in Israel are now afraid to change, afraid to trust, afraid to look beyond the sense of fear itself. And I believe this might be one of the determining factors for the polarization of the peace process and the perpetuation of the situation as it is right now. We must learn to trust again. We must learn to believe again. We must learn how to look beyond fear and gain a renewed sense of hope. This can only be done by mutual recognition, by getting to know and accepting the other side, by listening and tolerating the different narratives which comprise both Israeli and Palestinian societies, by acknowledging the fact that no one is going anywhere and our futures are interlinked. Only then we will be able to free ourselves from the chains of fear. Only then we will be able to embark on the new journey towards a better future, a joint future, towards the journey of peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Our next speaker is Walid.
Thank you. Let me start with a small story. Who's Christian here? Good. Once upon a time, there is a mother. She gave birth to her first son in the small little town in Bethlehem. She gave birth to her son in a small little cave in the town in Bethlehem. Who do you think I'm talking about? Not me. No, I'm not talking about Jesus. My story is, my grandparents, they got married in 1947. In 1948, my grandma was pregnant with her first son. And my family used to live in a small little town next to Jerusalem. And there is news got to the town that there is a huge amount of military coming to town and they've been killing people around. And my grandfather wanted to save his future kid and his wife and ran away from the town. So he closed his key, closed the house, and he ran away. And my grandma, she gave birth to her first son, who was my dad, in a small little cave in Bethesda, which is a small town next to Bethlehem. That was my dad's story, who I heard a lot of times growing up. Going forward to 1987, the second Intifada, that's where the second Intifada started. My mom was pregnant with her 9th child, was the last child she wanted to have. There was a military curfew, and my family lived in a small refugee camp called the Hesher refugee camp next to Bethlehem. And my mom, she needed to go to the hospital. They did not give a birth to her son in the house. So there was a military curfew. So my mom and my dad, they walked from the small refugee camp in the middle of the military curfew to the hospital in Beja, which is around 10 miles away from the refugee camp, so she can see me and give birth to her son. And I'm glad that she is here today. Going forward to the second Intifada, that's when I celebrated my Sweet 16. My Sweet 16 was not like any typical Sweet 16 in the US. My Sweet 16, there was no power, there was no electricity. There was also a military curfew, and there was tanks all around the refugee camp, the Dehesha refugee camp. My mom wanted to have my birthday, no matter what's going on outside. Because as much as there is violence outside of our house, my mom tried always to have love and care and compassion to balance our life. But unfortunately, the Israeli army decided that our house would be a perfect place for the snipers to watch around. So they came to the refugee camp and they went to our little house on my birthday while we were cutting the cake. They came inside, they put all of us in the living room, and they took over the house, the church, they destroyed the cake, everything, and we were watching the news, the Israeli army in Bethlehem and the refugee camp, and the only way we can see what's going on around us, we're watching Al Jazeera. And while the Israeli soldier was in the living room between us, and we were watching, trying to sneak, see what's going on in Al Jazeera, I think some Hamas leader or someone from Fatah, I think, was giving a speech on the TV. So the Israeli soldier who was sitting in the living room, me and my sisters and my brother, my mom and my dad were sitting in the living room. He took his gun and he shot the TV. You're thinking that he's shooting that guy in the TV. That was my first encounter with Israeli army. You know, after that, in the second Intifada, my best friend, who is my teachers, who taught me most of my values and morals, got shot in front of me. That time, I decided enough is enough. I'm not taking this anymore. I'm leaving. I'm running away as far as I can. Otherwise, I'm going to take AK-47 and start my revenge. That year, I got in a program called Art for Peace, where students from Palestine, Lithuania, Malawi, Africa, African Americans, Native Americans, and white Americans, we get together and learn about other cultures and each other's ethnicities. And that year, I realized the beauty of cultures and ethnicities, and I realized the beauty of being different from each other. And that year, I decided that AK-47 is not going to change anything as much as if I get educated, if I get open-minded, I will make a real difference in the long run. After that, I went back to Bethlehem. I finished my high school, then I came back to the US to get my degree, and I just graduated from St. Cloud State University. And I got my degree in economics. And I'm thinking, you know, I got graduates from St. Cloud, and everybody was in my graduation except one who was not in my graduation. My mother did not get a visa to come to my graduation in St. Cloud State. And I didn't know if me being successful graduating from college, if it's a real success, if I cannot share it with my family and the people that I love, my brothers and my sisters. So I started questioning things again. You know, I've been active and peacemakers and learning about cultures and ethnicities around the world. But there is one thing missing. There is something missing. How about my home? How about my country? I cannot run away forever. I need to share my culture, the beauty of my success with my family. I need to share my sadness with my family. I started looking around and see how can I be part of the Middle East and make a difference and actually enjoy my daughter's graduation one day when she grew up. And I got introduced to the NSL, the New Story Leadership, and through one of my friends. And I'm here today because I believe in the future. I want to speak my daughter's graduation, and I believe that peace is not God's on earth. It's not God's gift on earth. It's peace is people's gift to each other. And the real tragedy, I understand that kids are scared of the light, of the dark, but the real tragedy is when grown men are scared of the light. And we here are not scared of the light, and we can make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali. Our next speaker is Kai.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting and very fun meeting you and being in this place. It's a very interesting facility and people, and I love this community. It looks so happy and together. So I'm very happy that I have the joy of speaking in front of you. My name is Guy and I'm 27. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. I'm Jewish, I'm a Zionist, and I just graduated, finishing in the Hebrew University, PPE, which is philosophy, political science, and economy. I grew up in Jerusalem. Jerusalem, as far as I guess most of you know, is a mixed city. Not only mixed cities by Jews or Palestinians or Israeli Palestinians, but also from a lot of different cultures in Israel. As Or told you about people came from Morocco, from other places. I went to a school in a neighborhood where a lot of people from different societies that I did not came from went to. This school was a very, very not privileged school. It was a poor school, and it was ran by the labor movement. The labor movement of Israel I grew upon their values. Their values are what our country was established on in 48 by our forefathers, by my grandparents. And these values are mostly about equality and justice, but also Judaism and relation to the state of Israel. And this is where I grew up. This school was all about integration. Why integration? Because this school and the labor movement beliefs were about that only when you meet the other societies, meet them, learn them, talk with them, learn with them, only then you can work with them. You can build something together. And this was this school objective, and this is where I first understand the meaning of really getting to know each other. I used to work at a hotel in Jerusalem. There was a pool in this hotel, and I worked there, and then I met a lot of Palestinians. We worked together. And then, like you heard before in the stories here, the second Intifada in 2000 broke, and trust was lost. And people started to grow up in fear. And if there was a negotiation paradigm, is that what you say? Paradigma, how do you say it in English? Paradigm, thank you. So there was a paradigm of talking, and in the year 2000, this paradigm was transferred to fear. You heard the stories here, and I don't want to tell you my own stories about where I used to fear of going to buses because they would be exploded, fear of going out. There was a lot of fear in there, in both sides. And then I went to the army, and I kind of forgot about that because you don't really have to think about those stuff, about the conflict. It's not always in the main page. You know, you can live a good life without thinking about it. But when I joined the university where my story starts here today, when I joined the university, I had an opinion. I had an opinion to choose between two youth movements in the university. One is the movement for youth in Jerusalem. More parties, more social justice, a lot of things that youth in Jerusalem can enjoy from. It was a big movement. But there was also a small movement, the labor movement one, like labor movement for students. And I decided to join that one because that one not only dealt with what youth people can gain, youth people can do. It's also dealt with other values like meeting other societies. And I think that I need to finish. I get the sign here that my time is over, so I just want to say that they're like, I want to finish where I started. I told you that I'm learning political science, philosophy, and economy. There's two great philosophers in the social science world. Maybe you heard about them. One is Thomas Kuhn, and one is Clifford Geertz. Probably heard of them. Clifford Geertz says that the only way you can really get to know other societies is meet them. It's trying to learn them, trying to understand them in their own space. And Thomas Kuhn talking about paradigms. And it's really hard to change a paradigm. But changing a paradigm is always by small breaches. One by one, and then the paradigm is changed. So I think that this program here, these people here today, that are very different from each other and have different perspective about a lot of things. We're very different people. We are trying to go after Clifford Geertz, and meet the other societies. And by this meeting, we were preaching for Kuhn's changing of the paradigms. And I hope we will succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy. Our last speaker is Guy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yara, and I'm a Palestinian, and I'm also an Israeli. You might think that perhaps my mom is an Israeli, my dad's a Palestinian, but it's not that simple. How many of you know that 30% of the population in Israel is Palestinians. Wow. That's how the crowding goes. Back in 1948, a large population of Palestinians stayed in their lands and their homes, and in 1966 we were granted citizenship. So that's how nowadays there 20% of the population is Palestinians. 30% are Muslims and around 7 or 8% are Christians. I personally grew up in beautiful Jerusalem. I also grew up in Jerusalem on the other side of town. Originally, my parents were from the north, from a very small village near the border with Lebanon called Hamkan. But they worked in Jerusalem. This is how I got to grow up in Jerusalem. As Guy said, Jerusalem is very divided, very diverse. There are a lot of communities who live in Jerusalem. There's the very Jewish Orthodox, there's the extreme religious Muslim community, there's the Christian Muslim community, there's the Christian community, there are the secular, both religions. So it's very diverse. And even though we live in one city, it is very separated. You can easily go wander into one Arab neighborhood and after 2 minutes find yourself in an Orthodox neighborhood. And after 5 minutes, find yourself in downtown Jerusalem where all of the bars and all of the cafes are very diverse. I went to high school. I went to Jewish French high school where I was the only Palestinian in a class of 300 kids. And this was during 2000 and 2006, which is the peak of the Intifada. So it was not very simple being the only Arab girl in the class, always being the punching bag whenever there's a bombing, whenever there's stabbing, whenever anything happens, I would be the person that would be, oh, look what your people are doing, look what you're doing. At the same time, since I'm Palestinian and Israeli, I can go to the West Bank, so usually during the weekends I hang out in Ramallah and Bethesda, a lot of Palestinian cities, and sometimes some of my Palestinian friends, they tell me, oh, look at you, you're not a real Palestinian, you live in Israel. So it's kind of being stuck in the middle between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and each side look upon me as being, as me belonging to the other side and not being part of them. And this accompanied me throughout life, where I had to go and study in a Hebrew-speaking school. So I did not study my language. I had to study Hebrew, French, and Jewish literature, not study my own literature. I went to the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where I just graduated with my master's in law. And now currently I'm turning in the Law Library of Congress, and after NSL I will be studying in Columbia, hopefully doing my PhD there. Throughout life, struggling through the racism in school and throughout the racism and prejudice that comes both from my Palestinian and my Israeli friends of you being stuck in the middle, you're the other side. But I somehow learned how to challenge them and try to show them that it's not always about the other side. And you know, I can be Palestinian and I can be Israeli. I can come in and talk to the Israelis and explain the Palestinian situation. I can go to the Israelis and try to explain the Palestinian perspective. So throughout life, I felt like just swarming around between the two people, the two communities, trying to help the others see what I can see. But another note, I would just like to finally say what NSL is to me. I mean, a lot of, as Lior said, it's the first time he actually met Palestinians, but it's also the first time, and after Presbyterian and that is consensus, so it's the first time that he has a friend who is a Palestinian citizen of Israel. Although we live in the same country, we live in the same state, there's a very big separation between the Jewish Israelis and the Palestinian community inside Israel. It is also the first time where I personally washed the dog. It's the first time where I rode in a red car. It's the first time where I played football with Richard Torres there. There's a lot of first times here, and it's not only about the conflict, it's not only about our societies. In addition to that, we're experiencing the American culture. It's the first time I saw a deer, and I was so excited about it. And it was really sad that I took many pictures of the deer, but the passerby was like, oh, it's a deer, what are you guys excited about? But thank you for coming here, and thank you for taking the time off to come and to listen to me and to my 9 friends who are sitting here on the stage. And it's really a great opportunity of being in the States, meeting one another, hearing our other story on the other side, and having you here listening to us. So thank you very much.
sharing your stories, such inspiring stories. Now I hand it to Kian, who will be doing questions and answers. Kian.
How's everyone doing? Good to hear. Okay, so I'm Kian Morgan. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not from Israel or Palestine. I'm from Ireland. So I've been involved in a few leadership movements in my time. I was a reserve artilleryman. I come from a large family, so in my house I have to speak very quickly to get heard. So I was a reserve artilleryman with the Irish Army for 5 years. I was elected by the students of my university to represent them on the Students' Union, and I was also heavily involved with the Irish Labour Party. But what I'm most interested in now is where it led me, which led me to the NSL management team. On the NSL management team, I deal with host families, many of whom are here, including my own host parents, Fran and Richard, who are absolutely fantastic, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank them. But as well as host parents, I've also gotten some new host brothers and sisters, as well as all these guys. So for my brothers and sisters, you know, as a member of the Moore family, our family crest is 3 stars shining on a black background, and our family motto in English would translate as, they shine in the dark. But these guys will shine a lot better in the dark than I ever will. So this is going to be a question and answer session. So if any of you have any questions for these 10 amazing young people, yeah, just put up your hands and do it that way. Yes, ma'am.
So mine will be very short, and it's not even a question. I belong to the synagogue. I am Jewish. I had plans this afternoon to be with a very dear friend at the museum. If you have not seen the museum down in DC, it's a very fantastic place. It's a museum about the news. And there's a special program this afternoon about the Olympics. But I saw all of you on C-SPAN. At the SAIS conference, and I contacted my friend and I said, I'm sorry, you'll have to find someone else. Because I have to come hear these people in person. So my only point is to tell you that you probably see a lot of audiences in your program, and you probably say some of the same stories over and over and over again. But I want you to understand how powerful you are, and how powerful your stories are. And they will impact me the rest of my life, and in everything that I do. So I don't know if I can be helpful to you or not, I will try. But I want you to know what an impact you have by simply saying what you're saying.
Would any of you like to answer that? Alright, so does anyone else have any questions?
Alright, I'm Christian, I'm Episcopalian, but I have a lot of friends who are Jewish, and now
Stand up, please.
Oh, sorry. I was raised Episcopalian, but I'm considered an honorary Jew because of my Jewish friends. Now I'm Palestinian friends who are married, I love. But my question for you guys, a lot of my people that I've known had their own stereotypes or what they thought they knew, like, oh, Palestine's like this, or Israelis are like this. And is there anything that, like, while you've been here, that somebody said, well, doesn't this go on? And you've gone, no, oh my gosh, you got to think of me. You guys learned anything where you had to, you know, tell your rumors about, yeah, or something? Yeah.
Okay, well, this a few times, and some of you may have heard that. A few days ago, me and Walid walked into the shop, and as you may know, Walid referred to them at home, so it was very good. Slow down. We walked into the shop, and Walid was talking to the seller lady, and at some point the lady asked Walid, where are you from? So Walid tells her, well, I guess where I'm from. She didn't guess. Walid told her I'm from Bethlehem. So she looks at and she's like, Bethlehem. But he tells her, well, you know, that's where Jesus was born. She's like, yeah, Bethlehem. That's somewhere in, but he tells her the Middle East. And when he tells her, well, you know, we're Palestinians, she's like, yes, I know. Isn't that a religion? It's not a religion.
You know, it's, I think I went to school at St. Cloud State University, which is an hour away from Minneapolis in Minnesota. You know, guys, it's a small little town in the middle of nowhere where the students are farmers. We call St. Cloud the St. Cloud because the cloud is white, so the white people city, you know. I know I'm the hot, but it's okay. But there's a lot of stereotype, you know. All they watch, you know. One of my friends used to take class with me, and I was talking to her, that I'm from Palestine. You know, Jesus is my homeboy, I eat that. She was like, I laughed at me, so that's the Greek restaurant. I was like, no. I was like, I'm Palestinian. She's like, oh, Palestine and Greece. I was like, no, Palestine is a country. So, you know, economic department next to the geography department. So I decided to walk with her and show her what's because if you're an American, live in Europe, some European doesn't know where's America, they go to the map, right? So I went to the map to the geography department. I was like, Palestine was Israel, not Palestine. I was like, where I'm from you? Palestine is, I swear to God. See, Palestine, she looked at me, she thought it's one of my grands, but you know, there is a lot of stereotype. All they watch here is the American news, the mainstream, and all they watch is this suicide bombers, and they never show up simple Palestinian families having a picnic or doing something in their community. You know? And the challenge for most of the students, the college students and Americans here, is to get to know the Palestinians or the Israelis from the inside culture, not just only from the media or the mainstream media. I encourage each one of you to go, if you want to meet young Palestinians or Israelis in Israel, go look at the alternative media and the media from Israel or Palestine and see what do they deal with and how do they look like. And don't only watch CNN and Fox News. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope that perhaps at least one Israeli and one Palestinian can answer this question. How did your parents feel about you participating in this program? Did you get support or did you get resistance?
I can quote my dad. Young lady, you said, you are now officially destroying your future. You're a grown up, do whatever you want, just so you know, you're officially destroying your future. And just to share, I was supposed to intern for Al Jazeera. I don't know how, I felt about that. The first time Paul told me this is what I was going to do. This would be like asking an Irish guy interning for the IRA PR company. And I said, no way, there's no way. But I saw the opportunity when my dad heard about that. So my parents, my mom is probably more supportive, but I think my parents now feel that I'm the crazy lefty, that I'll grow up and understand that I'm just naive. And I think the sentence that they mostly say is, if you're young and you're not a lefty, you don't have a heart. But if you're a grown up and you're still a lefty, you don't have a brain.
First, I said my father was already in the prison, but he continued to be a peaceful, he continued to be a peaceful, in a peaceful process. Like he went from armed resistance to political resistance. Then he left all that, and he said to the politicians and to his body that I want to look after my children. And one of the first things that he made is just let us far away from resistance and politics and all. But I was not far from much, from politics, but not from resistance. So my father, first time, like, he always was supported. Like, he supported the idea that, man, just you do whatever you want, I trust you. But in the meantime, he was so afraid. And I'm mostly, like, I can say I'm afraid right now that I'm here talking close to the ladies. And I'm not afraid to say it. I already said to NSL to take my name from with the websites because it's a bit not good for me, especially in my society. And that's not because of my society, it's because of the isolation that Gaza have right now after the blockade and after the international community did not accept Hamas as a partner and they look at it as a terrorist organization when people they elected. You know, I'm mostly atheist, not Muslim at all. You know, but I support democracy. So I wish that they could support democracy, but they put us all under a blockade that made us isolated, made our young people isolated, and made our idea also isolated, where no one was able to meet. Like you normalize with the conflict. You know, you meet somebody who killed your friend, your cousins. It's too much, you know, and that happens to me, you know, on Facebook and in lots of email I received. That imagine you're meeting the people who killed your friends, you're meeting the people who killed your cousin, you're meeting the people who injured you. This is how it works. So I'm just trying to tell you a different perspective, okay? But keep it for you. Don't tell about the Palestinians.
Yes, sir.
I would like to know if any of the young Israeli leaders here believe that Israel's current settlements policy and separation wall are obstacles to a just and lasting peace.
I believe that the two-state solution is probably the only solution that can be made and should be made. This is my belief. And as an Israeli, but there are Israelis that feel different. As I see it, and I'm a Zionist, and I believe in the Jewish country, the only real solution that can be made is by two countries. So practically I am against building more. I am aware of the problem that there is about it. And this is a political issue. Talk to the Israeli society. It's not that all the Israelis want to build in the West Bank and all the other, and there only the Palestinians don't want it. It's a political issue. We talked about it, we protest about it, and there is it's a conflict inside the Israeli society. And as I think people mentioned before, thank you, Ken, for making my speech more dramatic. As I mentioned before, there is a lot of fear in the air after the peace process that Rabin started has failed, and 2000-year intifada, and the security wall that was built, and actually helped a lot in reducing the terror. But so this is the paradigm that I've talked about. The paradigm is fear, and I think that this is exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to build, to renew the trust, to create a platform for future solutions. But it's not an easy, it's not an easy thing to do, and there are no instant solution as some people might want them to be. We can't just do it from now to now, from now to yesterday. This is what we do. This is the only way. People talk here about things that they are participating in. Lior program, for instance. No, it's building trust that could later on facilitate an agreement. You can't just have leaders do agreement without people accepting them. This is why it failed before. So I think there is, it's a political issue. We're trying to deal with it in Israel, and this is my perspective. Thank you for the question.
I can say that being a pro-Palestinian doesn't mean that you're anti-Zionist or that you're an anti-Israeli. And that's my perspective of things. And you can say, as a guy, I really do support the two-state solution, not because of the history, because of the present, and because of both sides who are currently suffering from fear, from hurting each other, and this present which not as good as we hoped to. So right now that's the momentum to do two-state solution, and hopefully we won't lose that momentum, because otherwise all other possibility, because we don't have all that you talked about, which is the trust and the understanding and the acknowledgement of each other's narrative. The other solutions right now, as I see it, will be more destructive than the others. So that's what I believe, and that's what I am here to support.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I think those two answers, if I may be a little discordant, were evasive and sort of a cop-out. I mean, the gentleman's question was, what about the settlements? Now, raised in a Jewish family, I was raised to believe that thou shalt not steal. But for the last number of years, I see in my name the Israeli government stealing Palestinian land to the point where a two-state solution is absolutely out of the question. It's now a one-state. So the Zionist answer and the Palestinian answer, everything is sweetness and light, but the basic question is, there's one country now, but it needs to be one country, as Albert Einstein said very clearly, who opposed the idea of a Jewish state, which he said would lead to militarism, nationalism, and paranoia. Everything that he said has come true, and he continued to advocate that point of view, and then opposed the ethnic cleansing during the 1947 and 48 period, when Israeli abolished and wiped out 531 Palestinian towns. So I think the young people need to deal with the question, are you going to fight for a one-state solution where Jews and Palestinians, everyone having one vote, a non-sectarian state, or are we still going to have this kind of illusion of a two-state solution which died about 10 years ago?
Thank you so much for
Basharat's going to make an answer. You give an answer.
First of all, thank you for challenging us. I think I can speak about all of us. If not, sorry, we prefer not to delve in the past, but think more about the future. Yeah. Because we as well can speak about the wars that Israel has been suffering, and the Jewish history and the reasons why. But I don't want to do it because, as someone told me yesterday, why the Palestinians should suffer. Why the Palestinians should suffer because we suffered from the Polacks, from the Germans. And I disagree, but it's a way to look at it. But if I want to look on the future, I think that what you're regarding here is a policy issue. And when you're regarding the West Bank, you can see that the wall was built as a reaction to something. The wall was built as a reaction to terrorism coming from the West Bank. And I agree with building the wall. In the beginning, I think it's a great solution. But I disagree with maintaining the status quo. Because once you stop the problem, it doesn't mean that this is the cure for the problem. You only put a band-aid. Now we need to move on. Now we need to slowly but surely regain the confidence between the two societies and take out the wall. But it's a process. It's not something easy from today to tomorrow.
It's going to go
would give my perspective about the issue as a Palestinian. First, I respect how everyone among this team have high hopes for the future, but just a reminder that we have a harsh reality that we have to deal with. Now, when it comes to the issue of settlements, and especially the wall, first off, I would like to make a remark of what Leo said. The wall was built for security reasons, but in a way was built also to take more land, to take water resources. I'm sorry if I disagree with any beliefs here, but this is reality. And for us, in order to change reality, we have to acknowledge what reality is, what the problems we're going through. And also for the settlements, it is clear that the settlements are going through expansion, even though as we speak now. And whenever we have more settlements, the less chance we have to make a two-state solution. Thank you.
One last question, if anyone wants to ask one. Yes, ma'am.
This actually is a statement. I guess what I'd like to say is that this dialogue actually proves the value of the New Story leadership, because it's not about the opinions, it's about having the forum to be able to talk with each other, for one. Secondly, I just want to say, one mistake I think you all made is when you talk about yourselves as leaders of tomorrow and the future. You're not. You're the leaders of today. And it's really important for you to recognize that and think about that, so other young people in your situations can view themselves as the leaders of today. You'll lead more in the future, but really recognize yourselves.
Thank you, Barbara, for this statement. I really agree with you. I would really like to quickly add regarding the settlement question and about the wall. As a Palestinian and Israeli, I was the first Palestinian attorney in the High Court of Justice, and these were the petitions that I had on a daily basis to work on a petition regarding Palestinian expropriation of land. I had to work on the security wall, as Israel calls it, or the separation wall, as the Palestinians call it. And being stuck in the middle, I mean, to be honest, I'm very Palestinian and very passionate about being Palestinian. And being at that place where I had to work on these petitions just made me understand how hard and complicated it is. Because a lot of my friends here and a lot of people back home, some of them do disagree with the settlements. But our problem is not that we disagree. Our problem is the policymakers up there. Our problem is that our leaders have been in power, have been in chair for so long, that they have no such incentive of changing anything. They like the status quo, they like sitting there, they like the things that they are. I mean, the Palestinian leaders and also the Israeli leaders, why should they bring peace? I mean, they're in power, they get money from the states, they get money from all around the world, they get money. They have no incentive of changing anything. This is why, I can speak in my name, this is why I'm here, because we need to change the leaders up there. So it's not a question of whether the reason for the settlements or not, it's a question of we need to change the policymakers, and once we do that, we will make change.
I'm getting signals now that we're out of time, so I'd like to
Okay, I've been here for, I'm a Palestinian, I'm very pro-Palestinian, I'm very proud of my nationality, my identity, my history. For the last 3 weeks, I've been working with a very good organization. It's a pro-Israeli organization called Americans for Peace Now. When I got there, see all the Israeli flags everywhere, I never thought I'd be comfortable there, But working with them and the amount of support and help that they gave me, I love it there, and my experience there is beyond interesting. And there, we believe in the two-state solution, And there is, we believe in 1967 borders and two-state solution, And supporting the Palestinians based in 1967 more, the land. And they do a lot of good things for the Palestinians and for the Israelis, for the new generations. And if we start believing in the solution that we can create two lands for two people based on understand each other and help each other, we can lose hope. So our belief is to strongly believe that we can make a difference and we can create two-state solutions, and that we can keep going forward and make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really respect your ideas about two-state solution, but I mean, get over it. Two-state solution will never happen. Two-state solution is dead, and the facts of the ground are going toward one-state solution. That's how I see it. I mean, this is just the only solution. How can Palestine be a state? There is a lot of settlements inside the West Bank, and it takes more and more lands every day, and like 500,000 settlers inside, and we don't control anything. So I think one-state solution is the only solution.
Alright, thank you everyone. I'm going to hand it over to Paul now, who's the director and founder of the NSL. So thank you very much for your questions.
Just before we close, I'm going to give you a chance to mingle and have some snacks. I knew Bashara was sitting on that opinion and ready to sort of, this is the start of a new conversation. That's what we're here for. Because usually, if you're like me, and you've been to the APAC conference, and the Seville conference, and you see a CSIP conference, and all the other conferences, usually what's up there are the same old faces, with the same old voices, arguing about the same old issues. Today is a debut of 10 totally new voices. We don't want them to necessarily agree on anything. In fact, two-state solution, one-state solution, settlements, the fundamental belief of New Story leadership is, folks, and I'm an Australian, I live in Washington, but ultimately it's their story, not mine. And as much as we can support and love them and create the platform and trust them and build hope and build trust and build that kind of faith that if you don't believe this generation aren't going to solve it, I mean, you heard the power, you heard the strength, you heard the confidence, you heard just how they disagree with each other, but they're going to work it out. But we need to get behind them to support it. I want to hand it over finally to our former Vice President of the Board, who's now currently the Secretary of the Board, to close proceedings and to, I wanted to say myself as the Director of the Program and President, thank you for coming in. Greg will take it away like he did so wonderfully last year, just to round up the whole event and what it has meant for us and for you.
Thank you, Paul. I think this lively exchange shows why this is so important. There's real life going on here, and I recognize a lot of faces from last year. This is good because it's very important for us as Americans to be involved in this as well. We're witnessing this conversation, but we're part of it too. That's why they're in Washington. They couldn't have this in Geneva. This conversation has to be going on here. Over 200 years ago, a very perceptive and feisty woman, lower down, well, she was a feisty woman. This French woman who wrote under the name of Madame de Staël said this very perceptive remark about the French Revolution. She said, the king's palace in Paris was not surrounded by a wall or protected by a garrison of troops. It was surrounded by a broad, trimmed green lawn, grass, and a silk ribbon that said the equivalent of, keep off the grass. And the people, however restive and unhappy they were bound by fear to respect that ribbon. And Madame Stein said this, that when the tipping point came, a day came when the people realized that there was only a silk ribbon between themselves and the Tuileries Palace, they moved and took control of their future. And she said, at that moment, no amount of force could have kept them from crossing that lawn and taking control. And I think the important point about what we're witnessing here among these young people, but also in our own minds, is that the lines of demarcation, those silk ribbons, those security walls, those checkpoints, the ones that really matter are the ones that are in our minds. These are the ones that we have to overcome. And when we overcome, when they overcome those lines of demarcation, those green lines that are still in their heads, and when we overcome ours, no amount of force is going to be able to stop a new future from being formed. That's why we're here. That's why you need to stay involved in this. And that's why, with the ringside seat that we all have, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen over the rest of the summer. Thank you.